Hi,
Hi.
this is this is Linda Zhang, Purview Investment. It's such a great pleasure to speak to Aaron Turner, the founder of One Thought, and otherwise known as the Mind Controller. For those of you who have been in Indonesia last year, we have heard Aaron, and he has discovered how clarity of mind can help unlock challenges that people and businesses are facing.
Mhm.
Here's one quote from Aaron: "The greatest resource in every company is the state of mind of its people." Aaron,
Yeah.
welcome to
Thank you.
our conversation.
Thank you.
I'm very excited about this conversation that we're having ahead of the Hudson Valley gathering shortly. Our goal is to give a preview of
Mm.
what your session at Hudson Valley will be like and how your workshop could be like with
Yes.
individual participants later on during the event.
Yes.
You have tons of experiences advising couples in relationships and corporate leaders on the principle or process of clarity of mind and
Yes.
how they can help resolve day-to-day issues and sometimes thinking in bigger pictures.
Mm.
So Aaron, why don't you tell us about what you do?
Okay.
Explain the
Well,
concept a little bit. In-
what I do is I'm focused on a key part of performance and operation that usually gets overlooked. So people, they look at processes, they look at skills, they look at experience, they look at dynamics, they look at technology, but it's very rare that people take a serious enough look at the state of mind. And the state of mind is playing a huge role, but it rarely gets directly addressed. So what that means is that most organizations and most individuals are victims of whatever state of mind they happen to be in
Mhm.
because it affects them without them knowing it, and they never see it or address it. So they never get to adjust it. And then they see the patterns of their life and work and they're like, wow, I see this pattern. Where the hell's that coming from? Oh, never mind. And they just carry on and they live out the same patterns over and over again. Right? You look at
That is so
organizations and they
true.
have these patterns, and you look at individuals and they have these patterns. So it's my job to expose and highlight the state of mind. I want people to know how to see what their state of mind is, how to understand the
Mhm.
effect it's having, and be able to adjust it. So we
That's
have
right.
huge freedom in our state of mind, but only if we can see it and understand it. If you can't see it, you can't address it. If you don't understand it, you can address it, but not very well because you don't know how it works.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more on this. I recently has a personal revelation, that- and it has to do with ski and has
Mm.
to do with helicopter ski.
Mhm.
A few years ago, when my family traveled in, New Zealand in South Island, we're hiking there, and I saw
Yes.
some tiny people on the peak of the mountain, uh, on Mount Cook in particular. So the helicopter was taking them, they dropped them off on the peak, and they started skiing down. And
Wow.
I said to my family, "This is something I would never do in my life. It's reckless, it's dangerous, it doesn't make sense, and I wouldn't be able to do it either." So, a few years later, I just came back recently, a few weeks ago from Northern Canada, and I participated in this week-long program. When you think about it, I think the state of mind really helped me a lot.
Mm.
Initially, I heard people saying, you could do this, it could be fun. It's not as dangerous as you think. And I let my mind started imagining what it would be.
Mm.
And I put a deposit and then, one thing leads to another, and there I am. And I'm not alone. I'm not the only person who heli ski for the first time. There are four groups of us, 16 of us in total, who skied for the first time through helicopter. Perhaps that's an example of
Yeah.
how state of mind can even unlock your physical potential in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it also sounded like, Linda, that you had really drastically different experiences of doing exactly the same thing when you were skiing. Is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, I skied many years. I skied in many mountains and many continents, but just I always sit on, chairlift gondolas, just, in a groomed situation mostly, right? Groomed
Yeah.
trails.
Yeah.
Just never have thought I would go onto the wild mountains and
Yeah.
ungroomed snow, deep powder skiing.
Yeah.
So I have the
We
skills, but just never.
yeah.
I Perhaps I have the foundation, I guess.
Yes.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always remember one time going skiing and sitting in the lodge and seeing, the first day you go skiing, they take you on the nursery slope and they kind of show you the ropes.
yes,
Well, I was looking out over
literally,
the,
right
uh,
through the ropes.
yeah. Well, I was looking over and there was a group of kids and a group of adults. And I sat there for a couple of hours. And after 2 hours, the kids were ready and they were gone. And the adults were still doing the same stuff they were doing 2 hours ago. And the only difference I could see was their state of mind. The kids were not self-conscious, they weren't trepidatious, they weren't insecure, they weren't worried. They
Mhm.
were just doing it. And the adults were just getting nowhere.
You're overthinking it, huh?
Overthinking it. Yeah, you're like, how hard could it be? It's like, well, it depends on your state of mind.
It's the same slope, yeah.
Right, right.
So perhaps we can delve into, a few questions regarding how to apply the state of mind
Great.
to
Yeah.
business settings,
Mhm.
to global issues.
Wow,
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
So let's start with the first one, which relates to team dynamics. And I think this question may be interesting because many in ETF, Donistia, they are senior managers of
Mhm,
large
mhm.
corporations.
Right.
There's two conflicting issues.
Mhm.
Team often pulls together. So they
Yes.
pull team together, team members, they want to pull together toward common goals. And so they collaborate on one hand. But on the other hand, each individual team member also compete for recognitions, titles, etc., etc.
Yes.
So how is a manager continue to balance out
Yes.
these opposing
Yes.
forces? Yeah, using
Yeah.
clarity
Using
of
a
mind.
state of mind. Well,
Mhm,
there's so many issues within life and within organizations, Linda, that without seeing the state of mind influence are endlessly complex and unresolvable. And once you add an understanding of the state of mind influence, become very simple,
mhm,
right? So first, let me talk about the individual level. At the individual level, as people's clarity of mind increases, they become more intelligent. They see a bigger picture, more strategically. They're more stable,
mhm,
and they tend to be more open-minded, so they can see and appreciate what's going on with other people. They're not so wrapped up in their own world.
mhm,
As people lose their clarity, they become more agitated, potentially more upset, more sensitive, more reactive, more stuck in their own ideas, and less interested in anything outside of what they're thinking, and kind of
mhm,
very myopic.
mhm.
Now, you take those two sets of characteristics and throw them in a team and see what happens. So
Mhm,
if you look at teams, like what I've worked with a lot of teams over the years, and if you go from the bottom of the pile, which is dysfunctionally negative, reactive, and volatile, to the very top of the scale, which would be kind of synergistic,
mm,
like the best teams that people have been on is people are aggressively looking to do their best, but they're very synergistic and they can coordinate well with others. They're energized, right?
mhm,
These levels of teamwork are symptomatic of the state of mind that people are in. And I know this to be the case because I've worked with teams that can hardly stand to be in the same room as each other. And they're always in fairly stressed, agitated states. And
mhm,
as their state of mind improves, the way they listen, the way they interact improves. So what I'm pointing to here, and then you tell me what questions we can be more specific about, is
Mm-hmm.
as people lose their clarity of mind, their thinking becomes more personalized, reactive, and dysfunctional. So we're all worse versions of ourselves when our clarity goes down, right? So if you look at competitive in an unclear state of mind, it's fueled by insecurity and ego and et cetera, et cetera. In a clearer state of mind, it's fueled by the passion to do as well as you can. And there's a light-hearted goodwill around the competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't undermine kind of working together because there's a bigger picture here.
That's
So
right.
I think that if you have dysfunctional aspects or non-optimal aspects of your teamwork, look at the state of mind. Do people have a sense of ease, of goodwill, of engagement, of inspiration?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there more tension, stress, insecurity, ego, right? If there isn't the feeling of a clear mind, correct that and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then see, because if people are are not in a clear enough state of mind to have a healthy competition, synergy, collaboration, then trying to balance it out is never going to work. It's just
That's
never,
right.
ever, ever, ever going to work.
That's right. So is this similar to some of the dynamics in a couple? I watch some of your interviews in the past. You mentioned, everybody gets upset
Yes.
when they get upset, they hate their partner, and when they feel
Yes.
better, they love their partner.
Yes.
I wondered if you could share some of those experiences,
Yeah.
and maybe apply solutions in resolving that to the team
Yes.
dynamics.
S and this is exactly the same as on Teams, like you said, Linda. So, I used to do a lot of work with couples, and when couples had dysfunctional dynamics, and actually I worked with a family quite recently that was exactly the same, that the family had fallen out with each other, and, surprise, surprise, they were in unclear states of mind with each other. There was resentment, there was sensitivity, there was upset, there was insecurity. Same in couples, when relationships aren't going well, people don't feel good. Now
Mhm,
they think they don't feel good because the relationship's not good.
mm,
My
mhm,
job is to show them if you don't feel good, your state of mind is bad, your relationship's definitely going to be bad because there's a worse version of you living out that relationship and that person causes havoc with your relationships,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
In a
mhm,
way, state of mind points to the fact that we're all Jekyll and Hyde.
mhm,
Right? So you definitely want the guy with the PhD doing your relationship, not the monster person, you know?
mhm,
So
mhm,
with these couples, instead of focusing on their problem, which is the normal ways, oh, you're upset because you have a problem. If we solve the problem, you'll feel better. From my point of view, if you're upset, you're not in a clear mind. If you're not in a clear mind, we don't have any business trying to do anything
mhm.
because you're in no fit state.
Mm,
You're gonna mess it up in some way or other,
that's right. I
right?
I don't know if you watch, HBO's, hit series Succession.
Yes.
It sounds like that family could use some of your help.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, everybody's at the effect of their reactive states of mind. And one of the things that's interesting, Linda, is when we lose our clarity of mind, our perceptions and our feelings become more compelling.
Mm,
So if you don't understand clarity of mind, you tend to be more influenced by your worst state of mind than you are by your better ones because they're more compelling, they're more gripping, they're more, they have a more, they're more desperate salespeople.
that's right. It make you more obsessive
Yes.
and
To make them
destructive.
upset. Exactly, exactly.
Mhm,
So basically, if I'm with a couple and I can show them that they're not thinking clearly and it's not their partner's fault, that their
mm,
state of mind's coming from their own thought,
that's right.
they start to be less gullible in the face of those compelling perceptions. So they
Yes.
stop blaming the feeling on the other person, which unlocks it. Because if you
Mm,
blame a feeling on someone else, you lock it in, you get in this locked in
that's
dynamic
right.
like, I feel this way because of you, I'm justifying it because you're an a-hole, etc.,
Yeah.
etc.
On
Whereas
that
if
yes. Mhm.
yeah, go
On
ahead.
that note, I couldn't help but mentioning another, hit, series, streaming, Beef, Beef.
Oh, yeah, my
You
daughter wants me
gotta
to watch
watch
that.
that.
Yeah, my
So
daughter said I have
Succession
to
and
watch that.
Beef, yeah, they are two perfect examples on how people don't have they mess up with their
Yeah,
they don't have clarity of mind.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and how that becomes, people became, more obsessive and
yeah,
destructive,
yeah,
and strange things happen from there.
totally. Well,
So they
and another good program for that,
yeah.
Linda, is
Mhm.
Nightmare Neighbors.
Ooh, Nightmare Neighbor, I gotta
So
watch that.
basically, people get more and more upset with their neighbor, and both neighbors act like complete maniacs, but they blame the other person. They're like,
That's right.
"This,
Yeah.
my neighbor's a maniac." You're like, "But what about you?" "Oh well, I'm
Okay.
justified because they're a
Okay.
maniac."
We got
So
3, it's TV series
3
to watch,
series, yeah,
ETF Dynastia, Earth. You should watch those, at least watch the first episode of all 3 of them.
yeah.
Succession, Beef, and Nightmare Neighbors. So let's move to, next one, Aaron, if we may.
Well, can I just say one last thing
Oh,
about the
yes, of
couples,
course.
Linda? So,
Of
the
course.
last thing I was getting to, but I was going the scenic route,
Mhm,
is as soon as you take accountability for your own state of mind, "Oh, it's
mm,
coming from me, I gotta stop blaming it," all of a sudden you get the freedom to take it less seriously.
mhm.
And as soon as you realize your state of mind's coming from you, it's not clear, you take it less seriously, your mind will start to recalibrate back to clarity. And when people in a relationship have clarity, their negative dynamics disappear and they start to have really useful dynamics. And then they're able to solve the things that they couldn't possibly solve when they weren't thinking straight.
So, thank you on sharing how to use that clarity of mind to solve, personal and business challenges. So
Yeah.
that's on team dynamics and using state of mind, clarity of mind,
Yes.
to build a more fluid and synergistic team dynamics.
Yeah.
Next one is very topical, and which is on the technology disruption and how that challenges your self worth and even
Mm,
self identity.
yes.
So here, I'm referring to ChatGPT, uh,
Hmm.
which has been amazing tool. If you had, I don't know if you have tried it.
A little bit.
I've
Yeah.
even used the paid version to plan my personal trip because I'm planning a mother daughter trip in China in two
Huh?
weeks. And I said, ChatGPT, please tell me how to spend a week in Chengdu and Chongqing, and can you respond in Mandarin? And with only 1 second pause, he gave me everything in perfect
Wow.
Mandarin. So this is just
Wow.
amazing.
That's
And he
amazing.
also tells me, I also asked him this morning, is Apple a good buy? From a stock analyst perspective. And he says, well, I'm AI, I'm not allowed to give personal advice, but this is what I understand about Apple.
Well,
And it's just amazing. So I guess, ChatGPT is making our life and work a lot easier,
mhm,
but it also brings deep anxiety on job security,
mhm.
not just in
Yes.
finance, but in many sectors of the economy.
Mhm.
So here my question is there a way to resolve this, usefulness, excitement
Yes.
versus job insecurity? Who
Mhm.
am I worth anything? Am I even a
Yes.
contributing member to society? So how do we apply
Yes.
clarity of mind to think through this?
That's a great question, Linda.
Or
It's
have you
such
consulted your any business clients
y
who are thinking about this? Is
y
not necessarily chat GTP, but GPT, but technology disruption and all.
yes. Yeah. Well, I think this is a really important question for us because it helps us to separate what's a state of mind issue and what's not a state of mind issue. So, for example, within everything you think about, there's going to be a state of mind dimension, meaning you're going to have more or less clarity in the face of whatever it might be. So, in this case, Linda, it's Chat GPT. Now, once you have clarity of mind around it, you'll have a better sense of what it means for you, how to use it productively, what the pitfalls might be. So your view of it won't be undermined by fear, insecurity, reactivity, anxiety. because these are feelings that tell us we've lost perspective, we've lost intelligence, we've lost the broader mental bandwidth. In my opinion, the more challenging the thing that you face, the less corrupted bandwidth you want to have when you're looking at it and when you're thinking about it, right? Because that's just going to be regrets later.
Yes, yes.
So the way to do that is your feeling is your clarity of mind indicator. When people have clarity of mind, there's nothing to make them feel bad because it's distorted thought that creates uncomfortable feelings,
Mhm, mhm,
right? So if you feel anxiety, if you feel a lack of self-worth, if you feel a fear, it could be very valid, but that feeling tells you you've lost your clarity.
mm,
Now, if I felt that way and I have had my moments where I feel that way in the face of Chat GPT and other things, it's helpful to know, oh, I'm not seeing it clearly now. Okay. I bench my faith in my view of it right now.
mhm,
And just as before, that stops me validating that feeling, which allows me to come out of it.
mhm,
It allows that disturbed, insecure thought to pass by. And when it passes by, I'll have a clearer mind. And I know I have a clearer mind because I'll feel good, even though I don't know what to do about Chat GPT. But
mhm,
as soon as I feel good, I'll start having really productive, informative, useful thoughts about it, whether it's the dangers about it or the potential of it. I'll feel freer to kind of take a look at it myself. So, in a way, when you're dealing with an issue, the first thing you want to take the temperature of is your clarity of mind. If your
mhm,
clarity of mind's good, go to phase 2, see what you think about it. If your
mhm,
clarity of mind's not good, go back to the starting line. Don't take your upset thoughts so seriously, your upset perception so seriously, and let you and let your mind recalibrate. Let your mind kinda, which it will do if you don't hang on to what you're thinking.
mhm,
So if you feel anxious or insecure, you're not thinking
mhm.
clearly.
I think in this event in Hudson Valley, a lot of expert will talk about how this particular, AI technology will change shape ETF
Mhm,
industry.
mhm.
But our industry has been challenged, or has been a challenger as well to other
Yeah,
industries, the mutual fund industry. And I think we'll always face all kinds of new things
mhm,
that challenging our industry, or we
mhm,
become the challenger of other industry. So,
mhm.
I like what you've said. You
Yes,
have to achieve a clarity of mind, and instead of being obsessive about it and
yes.
being frozen with fear, find out what it is. How can it
Mhm,
help us do our job better?
yeah,
And and that's perhaps the best strategy.
yeah.
In the meantime, I really enjoy using that, and I highly suggest everybody to experiment with using ChatGPT as your personal assistant and advisor,
That's
but
amazing,
also
yeah.
don't take it on a face value of everything it
Mm.
says. By the way, are you a musician?
Oh, I have been when I was younger, I did a lot of music, yeah. Have
Okay,
been a
I don't know
musician.
if what ChatGPT told me was true or not. It says you are, you play metal, heavy metal music. I don't.
No,
That's
that's a
not you.
different
See,
Aaron Turner. No,
this
that's
is
not me.
perfect example of technology it is not perfect, and it can
Yeah,
be misleading.
yeah. But now and thanks to ChatGPT, that might become true. You know, everybody, "Oh, he's that guy that plays metal."
Yeah, the funny thing is, later on he find a clarity of mind, thinking two people, three people is actually the same person. So that's definitely the danger of that. So I need to verify my travel itinerary to
Yeah.
see if some of the hotels
Yeah.
don't even exist. Uh, Anything else to add on this topic before we move on to the last one?
No, I think just seeing and adjusting for your clarity of mind is that's the state of mind piece.
All right. The last subject we'll discuss, we'll conclude is global macro uncertainties that we all experience as citizens of the world, and as business leaders of the world. So in last few years, there's definitely a rise in geopolitical tensions.
Mm,
And we heard a lot of very concerning discussions, phrases, new world orders, new Cold Wars, great the clashes of great nations.
mhm,
And it's very unsettling. It's and it's not just unsettling. We actually have seen national policies being formed or misinformed by these anxieties, whether they're true or not so true. So, I don't know if you have ever consulted business leaders on this subject, in a changing world. How do business leaders have this clarity of mind, try to achieve more balanced information before they make decisions
mm,
that affects not
mhm.
only their own nations, but everyone in this world?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you have to tell me if this is kind of what you were thinking, Linda, but what I've seen about clarity of mind is that as the leaders that I've worked with, as their clarity of mind increases, they see a bigger picture and a longer runway. So the most senior leaders that I've worked with, as they get a feel for how to have a deeper clarity of mind, because you got to bear in mind, the normal adult state of mind is not a clear state of mind. It's just normal. People think of it as clear because it's normal, but actually it's
Mm,
very unclear compared to what a real clear mind is. A real clear mind is the exception, not the rule. So people
mhm,
have it when they're in the middle of their vacation or on their best day ever, but they don't tend to walk around in it. And that's why we do the work we do, because you could walk around in it. It's very natural.
mhm,
Now, when that becomes more of a normal working state of mind, the leaders I work with, they start to see more proactively rather than reactively. Right. So, for example, one of the senior leaders I work with in a big corporation, after we'd worked together for about 6 months, he's like, it's really weird. I've been in this industry like 25 years. I've seen the same business cycle 3 times. This
mhm,
time is the first time I'm seeing it coming and I'm getting ready. So, what happened was instead of reacting to that business cycle and being behind the curve of cutting back, they proactively thought ahead of the market and saw the market opportunity in it. And they pre invested in that opportunity while they were doing well. And they
mm,
did better in the downturn than they did in the upturn.
mhm, mhm,
And so I think this is also missing from a lot of global leadership thinking, which is what in a clearer mind, what would be for the best proactively, not like what's the best idea I have reactively.
mhm,
And
mhm,
it's a funny thing because if you take the leader that I gave as an example, they would have always wanted to think proactively. It's just their mind would not do it without a certain amount of clarity. Because when your clarity goes down, it's like driving. You only see a meter in front of you, and then you see 2 meters in front of you. Then you see, a mile in front of you. It's a
mm,
symptom of mental bandwidth, how much
mm,
information you can take in.
mhm. How much do you think this mindset has to do with the notion of zero sum game, where national leaders tend to think it's all if you win, I lose,
Yeah,
rather than we both win, and if we don't
yeah,
collaborate, we
yeah,
could face challenges to humanity as a whole, such as
yes, yeah,
climate s- climate changes, for
absolutely.
example.
Well, I think what you're pointing to, Linda, is how you take certain assumptions for granted and then you can't think outside of them. Right. So
Hmm.
if you have the thought, oh, it's a zero sum game, and instead of thinking, well, that's just a thought, what if I think beyond it? You take it as a reality, then your thinking can't go outside of that. And
Hmm.
and even if it's not true, you're gonna live and operate as if it's true. And as we see, that's not really good. So when your thinking feels limited, you've definitely got assumptions that are holding you back. And as an entrepreneur, you'll know there are certain people that just don't let their mind do that. Every time their mind's like, "You
Mhm,
can't do that," they're like, "Why not?"
mhm,
And those people think beyond. They're like, "Yeah, why don't we just do this? And why don't we just do that?" And other people are like, "Well, you can't do that because of blah, blah, blah." And the blah, blah, blah is always a bunch of thoughts.
mhm, mhm.
Like, so,
Yeah.
like, I think what you're pointing to is there are thoughts that hold back, inbuilt mental creativity. And like a zero sum game might be one of them, where if you didn't take that thought for granted, your mental creative could come up with all sorts of solutions and possibilities that might be hundreds of times better than what's being done now. But
Mhm,
they're not available until you put your current thinking aside.
mm, mhm. How do you think engagement, face-to-face engagement, is also important element in help to build a clarity of mind? You know, we have experienced 3 years of COVID. Many world leaders haven't been able to get direct engagement.
Yes.
Is that contributing? Is physical engagement is useful element of achieving clarity of mind?
Well, only if you don't understand it. Like if you understand clarity of mind, you'll know that you can stay on the right side of your own thinking no matter what. So if
Hmm.
all these leaders understood clarity of mind, it wouldn't have made a difference at all because they would have known it's how they relate to their thinking that determines their clarity of mind, and they would have done a lot. They would have been more
Hmm.
easily kept their mind together. But
Mm,
if you don't understand clarity of mind, it 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 does help to be face to face because
mm.
it's harder to hold on to your thinking when you're when you're
Yeah,
around someone than when you're
yeah,
not. But
I
again,
know.
it's just a symptom of the fact that people don't understand their clarity of mind, so they can't get to it directly.
Absolutely. This reminds me of what you said earlier pertaining to a personal relationship. I think you can use it here. Every country gets upset, and when they get
Yeah,
upset, they hate the other, right?
yeah,
When they feel better, they love the other.
yeah, yeah,
Mm. And I really hope you will gain an audience
yeah,
in policymakers as well as business leaders, Aaron.
yeah. Me too. Because if people knew they weren't thinking clearly when they felt bad, that would have a huge impact on reducing conflict, wouldn't it? Because
Hmm.
you'd basically look to your own state of mind rather than blaming it, getting stuck in that reactive, upset cycle.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I agree with you. I'd love to see more people understand this.
As a Chinese American, I feel like my parents are in divorce. So I clearly don't want
Ah,
to see
yeah.
that from
Yeah,
happening.
right. Yeah,
And
right.
I think every citizen in the world is kind of the children, adopted children of these two great nations. I can't wait to
Mhm.
visit China to hear directly from that perspective. And I hope nations can rebuild trust and more importantly, to work to collaborate on solving some of the most challenging issues facing the entire
Yeah.
humanity. And any parting thoughts, Aaron, to our ETF Donestia group
Well,
ahead
just
of the
what
coming event?
yeah, well, I'm really looking forward to being there and to being able to talk about these applications of state of mind with
Mhm,
people where they're interested. And listening to you just then, I realized, well, we really do need the benefits of a clearer mind personally in our businesses and kind of beyond because, the results of lacking a clarity of mind are getting more and more serious year to year.
mhm, mhm.
So,
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your
thank
thought
you.
with us. I can't wait to see you.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'm so excited. I've already started packing.
I haven't started yet, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be
Yeah.
beautiful in Hudson
Yeah.
Valley. I'm so excited. to meet everyone and to hear you in person again. Thank you
Yeah,
so
look forward.
much.
Thank you for having me, Linda. It was really fun to talk it through with you.